On the 9th of April 1940, it was a very nice sunny day. I was up very early. I had received a new blue Diamant bicycle the night before, and of course I wanted, as an 11-year-old kid, to try it out. So I brought it out from the basement and rolled it out and started bicycling around Lindhausvingen, which is the Lindmound curve where we lived on the Ramstad. And I heard an awful lot of noise, airplanes taking off, and the Gloucester Gladiator, the little biplane Norwegian Air Force airplanes were taking off from Fornebu, which was the old Oslo airport located only about a mile and a half in air distance from where we lived. And I found that something is obviously going on. Then I began to hear traffic coming on the main road going north to Kolsås, the little mountain on the western end of Oslo. And I heard other traffic going on Gamle Drammensveien, which was from Oslo, coming also into the little intersection just where I lived, about 1/10 of a mile up from where our house was located. And I thought, boy, this is something unusually is happening. So I came back again, and as I came back, my mother was downstairs and she was in tears. And I asked her, what is the problem? And she said, oh, I've just been on the telephone and I have been told that the Germans have invaded Oslo and have invaded Norway, and that they had invaded the island of Red Island in the Oslo fjord, which is Rauøy. And it so happened that my father was an artillery gunner on the island, and that particular island, and the island had already been taken over by the Germans, according to the telephone operator. So my mother was obviously concerned what happened to my father, since that was the first battle that the Germans had in Norway in 1940. Well, at this particular time, I decided I will have a fast breakfast, and I hear this traffic in the intersection. Boy, I've got to go out there, something is going on. And so I rushed back out again into the intersection, and I found that the intersection was clogged up of Norwegians who were driving their vehicles from Oslo or from other areas, trying to evacuate and get out of the area of Oslo and get up into the countryside, toward the mountains and up into the northern valleys and things. And the people couldn't get through the intersection because the ones coming from the south felt they had the right of way, and the ones who came from the east felt they had the right of way. And if you know, when two Norwegians get together, it can be very insistent. In any case, I decided, boy, this is a chance for me. I better take and release this traffic jam here. So I found an old milk carton from the little grocery store right on the corner, Lillehøvik Landhandleri, and I took the milk box out, put it in the middle of the intersection, and now I was the king of the intersection. So I immediately arranged for the flow of the traffic, and all of the people were very happy, and I decided, if they are happy, I'm happy. And so the traffic went, but very soon people began to tell me, get out of here, get out of here. The Germans are right behind us. You have to save yourself, get out. And I said, what are they doing? And they said, oh, they are shooting, they're killing people and everything else. This is not good. But I decided to stay on the milk box because obviously the traffic had to flow. Well, it wasn't very long before the traffic started petering out, and I stood on my milk box, and then one final car came driving down past my school. That was the little primary school I had been attending, right on Gamle Drammensveien. And then the car slowed down, and the driver said, get out of here, get out of here. The Germans are right behind us, and you have to save yourself. Well, I decided I had never seen a German soldier up close. This ought to be very interesting. So I decided, okay, I'll stand on my milk box. I'm just a kid, 11 years, 3 months old, and if they come here, obviously it's going to be very interesting for me. Well, anyhow, here I am standing on my milk box, and I'm looking right up Gamle Drammensveien. My school is on the left-hand side, and the schools where the boys get, what do you call this, when you go and have, after you've had a sports event, you get a shower. Their shower room was in building right there, and
The bathhouse.
bathhouse, thank you.
You all can help translate.
Yeah. In any case, the road was clear, but I began to listen for traffic, and I couldn't hear a thing. No more traffic. Had been lots of vehicles, of course, during this whole period. But I thought, boy, the Germans are going to be coming, and if they're coming that direction, I'll take and watch for them. Well, the next thing I could see was I heard strange noise, which I'd not heard before. Obviously a strange type of a motor. Well, it didn't last long before I saw the top of a sort of a roundish head had something on top of it, and I decided that's a German helmet. And I could see the German helmet, and I could see, beginning to see the eyes and the field glasses of somebody looking down at me, and I decided, okay, I'll stand here and I'll have my arms out on the side so that they will see I have nothing in my arms, and after all, this is going to be very interesting. And what are they driving? Well, it didn't last long before I could hear more than I could see finally the whole head, and the head coming across, and the next thing I saw was the front of an MP38. It's a Maschinengewehr 38 model MP38 for 1938 model machine gun. And of course, how did I know what this was? Because I was a member of our local airplane model club, which had all of these little magazines with all of these military designs and weaponry of the Germans and the Americans and the British, etc. And so I knew exactly what an 38 MG was. In any case, it didn't last long before I could see that the machine gun was, of course, attached to a motorcycle sidecar, and a big German was behind the handlebars of the motorcycle. And this was, I could immediately identify the sidecar and the motorcycle as a zünd-up BMW, with a 4-cylinder horizontal box engine, same as the BMWs have today. Zünd-up was the second really big motorcycle outfit in Germany at the time, and I could identify it because the clutch pedal, or the clutch handlebar on the left and the brake on the right came out of the tubing of the handlebars and swung out in opposite to all British made, the Ariel and the the British motorcycles. They would always come from the handlebar down, but the German Zünd-up and BMW, they always come back out on the outside. So this was a unique thing, very important for an 11-year-old boy to know. Nobody else would be interested, but an 11-year-old boy wants to have these things exact. In any case, this thing began creeping down toward me, and I thought, boy, they're going to ask me the way to cold sauce, because why else are they coming here? And I am going to tell them. So there comes this motorcycle with a machine gun. I noticed, of course, as an 11-year-old boy would, that they were aiming the machine gun right at me, so I decided to stand still with my arms. Uba, don't take and do anything dumb with your arms now, before you'll be ventilated very quickly in that case. So I decided, okay. They came up to my milk box, about 12 inches away from my milk box, and I could look down into the sidecar, noticing that they had additional ammunition boxes stored there, etc., etc. And then came the man in the side of the car, asked me very politely, in a mixture of German and Norwegian, wie geht es zum cold sauce? How do you get to cold sauce? And I said, oh, yippee, this is my chance. Yes, sir, right up there. And I was made it a point to be very polite also to them. In return, I said, yes, straight ahead. Go Drammensveien, go straight up there. And in about 5-6 minutes, you will see that that's the correct road. And they said, And they were talking on a sort of a telephone It wasn't. It was a combination probably of a radio telephone of some kind. It of course didn't have a line, so it was obviously a radio, but it looked like a regular telephone. And they said something on the telephone, which at that time, my 2-year German wasn't quick enough to catch it because it was Southern German dialect, Bavarian dialect, which I learned later. Very interesting. In any case, at that particular moment, they decided, okay, we'll do that. And so they took off with a lot of vroom and all that. They tore off. And I stood on my milk box and I said, boy, I met my first Germans and I was able to send them in the wrong direction. These guys aren't so smart after all. So, in any case, but then after a while I got thinking about it. Boy, what are they going to say when they find out after about 10 minutes or 7-8 minutes that they are in the wrong direction? Because obviously they'll see that. They are not going up to the hills, they're going down towards Sandvika, which is on the coastal area, and they could see the water and everything else. They're going to be asking questions. And so they're going to come back. And when they come back, they might be a lot more sore. So it wasn't very long afterwards, and I decided that I could hear this motorcycle coming, and it wasn't going slow, it was going quite fast. And I decided, boy, it's time for me to get out of the intersection, over this big wire fence that was there, and which I managed, and I got into the grass, and sure enough, here they came down. Now they were sore, and the guy in the sidecar, who had seemed to be polite and nice, he was now standing up with his MP38, which is Maschinenpistole 38, which is the fastest operating machine pistols in those days in the armed forces, in any armed force, including American and British and the whole world. And by now they were very sore. I could see that. And so they kept going around, circling around my milk box and looking over the fences to see where I was. And lucky for me, I wasn't there, or they couldn't see me. And then they tore off with a great deal of expeditious speed and went up in the right direction. And so I felt, boy, I am lucky. I better be more careful. But